I'm Connie Meisinger from House on the Hill Cookie Molds. In this video, I'll be discussing the basics of making Springerle cookies. I'll be using my grandmother's recipe, which has long been my family's tradition. An ideal Springerle cookie is a dense, dry, cake-like cookie that has risen primarily from its underside and has a slightly golden brown, pillow-like bottom and a cleanly embossed white top. We'll start by setting out 6 large eggs and 1 stick of unsalted butter to come to room temperature. This should be done at least 2 or 3 hours in advance of making the cookies. Then we will dissolve 1/2 teaspoon of hartshorn into 2 tablespoons of rich milk or cream. Hartshorn is an old-time leavening ingredient, also known as baker's ammonia or ammonium carbonate, that makes a softer cookie than baking powder. It's hard to find, but we do have it at House on the Hill. The purpose of dissolving the hartshorn in milk is to make sure this small volume ingredient is evenly distributed throughout the dough. This is an important step. This needs to sit for about 30 to 60 minutes, so go start another project and we'll come back to this later. You should not eat the raw dough. You need to bake out the ammonia before eating the cookies. Now we'll begin to make the Springerle dough. We'll start by beating the 6 eggs for about 20 minutes. This is a step I've already done. This is a critical step to making a lighter textured Springerle cookie. The eggs should quadruple in volume and they should be very light and foamy in texture. Now gradually add the confectioner's sugar. When the sugar is completely incorporated, beat in the butter until no butter pieces remain visible. Add 1/2 teaspoon of salt, the dissolved hartshorn, and the 3/4 teaspoon of anise oil, or your preferred flavor. Mix thoroughly. Remember that these are proportionately small amounts in this large batch recipe and should be mixed in well for good distribution throughout the dough. Before you start adding the flour, you need to switch from the whisk attachment to the paddle attachment. If you have a beater blade, I find it works very well for Springerle dough. Time to gradually add the 2 pounds of cake flour. Forming the cookies is the fun part. I like to work at a lower height, such as a table, to allow use of both shoulders and arms when I press the cookies. It saves time and it's much easier on your back. Take about half of the dough, and it will feel sticky, and start kneading in flour until the dough no longer feels sticky and it is a solid mass with no layers. The amount of flour you need to add to the dough will depend on the size and the liquidity of the eggs. Roll the dough into a flat pancake of dough about 3/8 to 5/8 inch thick. You'll need to roll the dough more thickly for a deep mold such as this one. Don't roll the dough too thinly. Remember, this is a dense cake-like cookie, and you're going to apply additional pressure to form the design on the top surface of the dough. You'll need to brush the cookie mold each and every time that you press the cookie. Press the flour-dusted cookie mold straight down onto the pancake of dough. Carefully lift the mold straight up, cut, and remove the cookie to a parchment-lined cookie sheet. Repeat. Press, cut, and move. You'll need to move the cookie first, otherwise you'll distort the adjacent cookie when you press. On a multiple, again, don't forget to brush the cookie mold with flour. Again, press straight down into the dough. Carefully lift up. On a multiple press, I like to use a pastry wheel to cut the cookies. For a different size cookie, such as these, you'll need to put them on a different cookie sheet because they will be baked at a different time and temperature. Let the cookies dry uncovered at a cool room temperature. 60 to 65 degrees would be ideal. The drying time allows a thin crust to form on the top surface of the cookie, which helps maintain the integrity of the design. You may bake the cookie sooner, but the design will be softer. Now it's time to bake your Springerle cookies. The cookies have dried overnight and there still should be a moist area on the bottom surface of the cookie. This is good. We want the cookie to rise from the bottom to maintain the integrity of the top part of the design. You will need to adjust the baking times depending on the size of the cookie. A typical 1.5 by 2 inch cookie should bake at 300 to 325 degrees for 12 to 15 minutes. The smaller the cookie, the lower the temperature. Ovens do vary, so I recommend that you do a test cookie, especially the first few times that you bake these cookies. Of course, different sizes will require different times and temperatures. The smaller the cookie, the lower the temperature. You should not bake larger cookies at higher than 325 degrees to maintain the white top, which is a hallmark of a perfect Springerle cookie. And in general, you should bake one tray at a time in the center of the oven. When the cookies are done, remove them to a cooling rack. Cool completely. Store Springerle cookies in a tight-fitting tin, dividing layers with wax paper. The anise flavor develops over time, so generally the cookies are aged for 4 weeks. They can be enjoyed sooner, but will be softer the earlier they are eaten. House on the Hill has a broad selection of cookie molds for any occasion. I hope that this demonstration will encourage you to try your hand at baking these special cookies so that you can make Springerle a tradition in your family just as it is in mine.